Hi, everybody. Hi. Welcome to a panel I'm so excited to get started on. It's our Swings, Understudies, Dance Captains, and Standbys. Oh my. It's going to be these people are truly the heroes of a show, often mid-show become a hero to a show. We'll get into all kinds of fun stories. This is a career path, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's going to be fascinating. We have everything from people who have covered celebrities, plays, musicals. We're covering the gamut today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, I'm going to, first of all, also, I am actually not going to be moderating today. I'll jump in every now and again, but I'm very pleased that I have two special people in my life. Of course, my brother and my sister-in-law, not married.
Definitely not.
Definitely not married. But they, my sister-in-law is married to my sister, but my brother is
a lesbian.
My brother, but anyway, so we are thrilled to have you guys, and they're going to be.
Our mother's going to be so angry.
My brother, Daniel, you're going to be the death of this panel.
You're right.
So anyway, no, it's going to be awesome because they both have had experience on tours, Broadway tours for exactly these positions, so they're the perfect people to moderate. So here we go. I'm going to start with my sister-in-law, Brittany Rose Hammond.
Yay! I'm the one with everlasting names. I am Brittany Rose Hammond, aka Dawson, aka Biddy. Currently, we're on hiatus because quarantine. On Jesus Christ Superstar National Tour, I am the on-stage swing and an understudy, and I was previously an on-stage swing dance captain understudy for the Hair Revival.
Hoorah! And now we have a woman who came in to, we had a call of like a bazillion people. It was a hard show to get into, and this one was like the first person I cast because she is one of the most hilarious people I know. And our first project was Beauty and the Beast, Miss Bremer.
Aw, Teej, that's really sweet. Hi, friends. So I am on currently hiatus with Les Miserables, and I am a female ensemble member in that show, and I'm also understudy for Madame Thenardier. And funny thing was, today is officially 2 years since I had my put-in rehearsal. We'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yay, I love that. That's amazing. And yes, we will be talking about that. So this next woman, I believe, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, I gave her first taste of this craziness that is to be a standby. She was our wonder study in Sideshow, where she covered both female twins. I mean, as in there was male twins in the show. She covered both female twins, the Sideshow twins, and had to know and be ready to go in for it if need be. Miss Chelsea Franco.
Yes, I was actually going to say that wonder studying was my first experience with all of this, but then 3-4 years later, I booked the national tour of Wicked as the standby for Elphaba, and so that was the second national tour, and I toured for 15 months as that.
Yay! No big deal, no big responsibilities there. All right.
Small responsibilities.
It's fine.
So
I did that too.
This person needs no introduction. My brother.
Hey! Who, me? Hi. I'm Daniel Dawson, and 400 years ago, I did the musical Cats on tour, and I was a swing. I was an adult male swing, so I was covering monkey straps.
Too old to be the other parts. No.
Skimble Shanks, Rum Tum Tugger, McCavity, Alonzo, and Monkastrap. Yeah.
That's its own special hell, I'm sure, which we'll talk about
yes.
later. Next person I'm going to introduce has been a crucial part in the 3D, or crucial cog in the 3D machine. He has both performed and directed here and began his swing life on the Broadway. I believe we have Mr. David Effenbaugh.
Hey guys. Yes, I swung Shrek on Broadway. I covered 19 tracks, 9 male, 9 female, and I covered 1 principal.
Yikes.
That was my only time swinging, but I have understudied in every show I've ever performed in. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, I don't think you never need to swing again after swinging all those people. I think.
Not interested. Thank you.
It's enough.
Yeah, you're oh my gosh, he was our Farquaad the first time we did Shrek, and brilliantly talented, amazing, and then has directed many a show at 3D. So we'll talk to David later. But the next person I'm going to introduce is one of my favorite people to collaborate with. She is an inspiration to me. She is someone that I have choreographed. She's choreographed many a show at 3D. And we've become very, very close friends, and I have nothing but respect for her. We have Miss Leslie Stevens.
Yay! Hello, this is so fun to be here. So I have dance captained on many regional shows because of my dance background, but I think I'm here really because I've been a standby on, I was a standby at Lincoln Center for a role in a play 12 Dreams that was at the Mitzi Newhouse. And then I have been the standby for both female leads in a play, Poor Behavior, at Center Theater Group in Los Angeles. And I was the standby for Laurie Metcalf in a play Trevor that premiered. So I've done the standby thing, and I have done a combination of like standby swing, for another piece. So I've had some, even though I'm a musical theater person, I've had some interesting other versions of when the standby thing is kicked in, and it's mostly been around straight plays, which is a slightly different vibe, and a little bit with star power, which is also a different
very different vibe. Can't wait to get into that. I know you and Maria probably will have things to commiserate on in that regard.
Okay.
And my best friend from tour, my sister, I just love this woman so much, and actually is the only person to have yet to work at 3D, but has been offered a show at 3D, and just couldn't do it at the time, but someone that I will get out here one day because she is brilliant and amazing and just a piece of my heart. Let us go to Maria.
Hi guys. Yeah, so I've been pretty much a professional understudy / swing most of my career, I would say. My first job understudying was actually at Animazement at Disneyland. In college, I understudied, it was the first time I ever understudied Eden Espinosa in anything. And I understudied the role of Pocahontas. And then after I graduated from college, I went to UCLA, went on to do the Fame Tour, where I was the principal swing for the dance teacher, Carmen, and Serena. And it ended up taking over the role of Serena for the last 6 weeks of the tour. And then I went out to Europe for 2 years, where I met the lovely TJ, who became my therapist and best friend.
Likewise.
And we did Grease the musical together, and
Grease das Musical.
Das Musical. Yes, the Tiefpunkt tour. We'll tell you later. And there wasn't a single. Actually, there were only 2 female roles that I didn't understudy or play at one point. So I actually owned 3 different roles at several different times, but understudied like 5 female.
It was only Jan and Patty that you never went on for.
And
right?
Patty, right? And
Didn't the producer go to jail?
Several times.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, several times.
We have the best stories.
And then did Evita out there understudying Ava. That's another story too, because I got thrown on for the understudy track. And then went on to do Wicked was probably the biggest thing on my resume, where I understudied Elphaba and Nessa Rose, both on the first national tour. I was in the original company, and then went on to understudy those parts on Broadway. So my understudying in a nutshell, pretty much.
She's made a career of it, and she's amazing, and we love her, and I cannot wait to have you out here at some point when the world starts turning. So last but not least, one of my best friends, and it just shows that like generations like know nothing because your heart is everything. But I met this woman when I was 16 years old, when I was hired for my one and only time being a swing, when I was at Disney, 16 years old, and was hired to do 5 parts in the Hunchback show there. And it's actually funny because for me, I didn't go on to be a swing or anything like that as a performer, because I'm such a specific type. So it would be a little bit more difficult for me to land a gig like that. But it gave me everything that I needed, tools to know that I could direct and that I could stage a show and that I could handle multiple tracks in my head. Anyway, this person truly is a huge part of the artist I am today, is an inspiration to me, is a part of a gigantic, amazing time on Broadway and in the West End. We have and she was my first guest on my TJ a couple weeks ago, the incredible Nancy Wood.
Yay!
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me back. I feel so delighted, so thank you so much. So understudy, yeah, I made a little bit of a career of it too, but so my first experience was a chorus line, the first international company of a chorus line, and I was Trisha, and I covered Maggie, Connie, Christine, and I also covered Bibi and Deanna at one point. Later went on as Christine, and then I was in the original Evita in London and in New York, and I understudied the Mistress there and in New York too, but I was on a lot. In fact, the same thing happened with the chorus line. Then I did, they're playing our song in London, and this time I was the swing to the 3 voices. I was the cover to Sonia, the lead, and I was the dance captain. So that's a story within itself.
Whole show.
And I was on all the time for Sonia as well. And Starlight Express, it was the original workshop, and created the part of Buffy, and the control voice, but I also covered Pearl, and I did a lot of half shows of that. And I also covered a guy. I played Electra. And I went on for Electra. I did AC/DC the other way. That was kind of cool. And I went on for Belle one time. They had no one on 15 minutes before. I said, oh, I'll do it. I was like a little bored. So I just, that's another story. So anyway, that's kind of my understudy story.
That's all. No big deal. You guys, so we are thrilled and honored, as I said, to have all these incredible artists here today. You can hear that in their careers, you're going to hear quite a few stories and talk about this as a career path. There's also those who don't want it as a career path, and how do you get out of it? Because it is truly, you are the most valuable person in the company, and when people latch on to that, as in producers and directors, it sometimes is impossible. And then there are those who really enjoy making a career of it, because you get paid more. Woo! All right. So I'm gonna bow out and turn this over to my incredible sister-in-law and brother, and all these incredible panelists. Have an amazing time.
Now get out! Oh my gosh!
Here we are. Welcome. Thank you for that amazing introduction, TJ. Actually, I would love to elaborate on the standby side, because we didn't get to hear a lot about what that entails.
Oh yeah, we need to hear the differences.
Those of you who have standby experience, what is the difference between a swing/understudy/standby, and what is your experience specifically on being a standby? What does that entail?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Take it.
So I only have ever stood by, which is an offstage cover of a role. So I only knew Elphaba, I only learned Elphaba, and I only went on for Elphaba.
Now, what does that mean?
There was
Did
also,
you have to be there the whole time, or did you so every single performance you were there?
Every single performance I was there, unless I had called out because I was sick or had a personal day. So I was there always looking like this. And then if I had to go on, they would put me in the green. So there was also an understudy on stage that covers Elphaba, and she had her own regular ensemble track. And then if I couldn't go on, she would go on.
Got
because I'm not doing anything else. So it's easier to put me in.
That was my role.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, actually, I wanted to touch base on that a little bit. So Chelsea and Maria, you guys covered the same role, but what was it like within different roles in the company, i.e. standby or onstage cover? So Maria, what was that like for you?
Wow, that's a
No, sorry.
actually, when the first national tour went out, there was no standby position because Chelsea, I don't know if you even knew that, but first year of the tour, we did not have a standby. We were still new. They didn't think, I know it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
They didn't realize like how much it was going to be needed. So, and unfortunately, our first alpha bow was Stephanie J. Block. And the night before our first preview, she got horribly injured.
Oh no.
Literally 5 minutes before our tech was finished, at midnight, the night before our first preview, she was horribly injured. And she had two understudies. One of them was our Nessa Rose, who's Jenna Lee Green, and then me. I had not learned either role yet. They were just working on cleaning the show and getting it up and ready.
She's frozen. Somebody help that poor woman. Oh, there she is.
They flied in a Broadway understudy to cover her, but it was crazy because we didn't have a standby position.
And that's
They
maybe
did
why
bring in a standby.
Yeah.
It was really
I'm thinking.
rough
It's all about
because
making the show like more efficient and having
Yeah.
the show happen regardless of what happens, basically.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
here's the reality of it though. I mean, like it was a smart business idea.
Right.
Because as Chelsea, you know, like it's a beast of a role. And you know, it was the best thing to do for the company at the time. They didn't want to give it to me because I had already learned 3 roles, and it was actually harder to replace me in my find someone who could learn 3 roles opposed to someone who could just learn 1. So
Yep.
Yeah.
So question about the standby thing from Chelsea, was there a point in the show where it was like, if she goes out, we're not going to send you on and you can go home, or did you have to stay all the way through?
No, so there is a standby and swing ditch period where if they go on for the top of Witch Hunters, which is the song directly after No Good Deed, then we could skedaddle.
It's like
because all
way through the show, basically, right?
Yeah, because she only has For Good left. And so if she can't stand and talk through a song, then we've got bigger problems, and the show probably should just come down for the next.
Yeah.
But then it actually would take longer to probably get me into makeup and wig and costume to put me on for the last 15 minutes than it would for her to just power through. So that's the rule if I leave. And then also I'm allowed to leave at that point, but there's still the onstage understudy that's in the ensemble that they could if there was an emergency.
Yes.
Now, what about like regular understudies? We got David FM on, right? Weren't you just a normal understudy? Question mark.
Wait, in Shrek?
Yeah.
No, I was an offstage swing.
You offstage swing.
I was an offstage swing, and there was, you know, I covered the entire ensemble, and then Farquad, but then there was another Farquad understudy in the normal ensemble. So yeah, so swings can cover, so you guys know, swings can cover the ensemble and principals, or just the ensemble.
Right.
A standby is just standing by for specific principal roles. We had 5 swings, offstage swings, and we had 1 standby in Shrek, and we were on every day.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Every single day.
And sometimes all of them, right?
No, that's what I mean. Like all of us were on almost every day.
Yeah. Yep.
Most cut shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Cats, we had 9 offstage swings, and we were on all the time.
Yeah. So speaking of swings, actually, well, speaking of swings, what kind of person or what does it take to be a swing? And this is kind of open for everyone on the panel. And how did you or how did casting know that you even had that in you? Say like your first swing or understudy position. Anyone want to
chime in?
that one?
All right, I'll chime in since everyone. No,
Say something.
Great. So I think in general, swings are. I think people are eager to hire swings who have done it before. because it's such a huge task. I personally had never done it before. I think it depends on the show. If you're doing a show, I'm generalizing here, apologies, but if you're doing a show like, let's say 42nd Street, which the ensemble largely does similar levels of things, I think there's that kind of swing. And I think there's another kind of swing like Shrek, where like you have to sing, act, that you have to fit a lot of different costumes, you have to fly, you have to fit into trapdoors. There's a lot of spatial things involved. So when I auditioned for the show, I read about 300,000 pages of sides, and I think that was because kind of the acting and vocals were so important, and they hadn't really created costumes or anything like that. But I think, you know, if I were hiring a swing now, I would really rely, I lucked out. I happened to do it okay enough to like not get fired. But I would rather hire somebody with experience, because it's not, I think we often talk about how, oh, you have to know how to do all the things. Yeah, sure. But you have to learn 10 times faster than everyone else.
Right.
You have to have zero ego, which is impossible for all of us. And you have to just be really spatially aware and smart at a second's notice. And not everyone has that. I don't really think I have that. But so yeah, anyway, I don't even remember what the question was.
Well, and also be a chameleon too.
Well,
I have
yeah,
something to
and that's
add.
the ego part.
Right.
Chelsea has something to contribute.
I was going to say, tagging on to what David said, that like when TJ hired me to be the Understudy, he, in the breakdown for the auditions, there was a specific measurement that I had to fit within in order to even audition for Daisy and Violet. That is like a specific thing that we need, you know. What's going on?
And that was your foot in the door as far as swinging was concerned, right? And,
Yes.
And there you go.
Yes.
Once you put your foot in the
Exactly.
door.
So he wanted to make sure that I was going to fit into the costumes, because they were only going to have costumes for Daisy and costumes for Violet. Whereas at Wicked, because our production, the second national tour has a few less people on stage than the first national tour did, we actually have costume plots for each of the swings, their own specific costumes that they will put on instead of fitting into someone else's costume.
And Nancy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's so interesting hearing, you know, when I first started off, I mean, A Chorus Line was my first professional show. So, so I didn't come in with any grand experience, but I am so grateful for the experience, because it's what formed me, and it helped to teach me not only about the industry, but how to be creative, how to be flexible, how to adapt, how to, as David said, don't have an ego, you know, just to be able to do your job and fulfill the shoes. And I've learned through the years, I think it's so valuable being an understudy, because what they told me is, like, if the box office doesn't drop, and that, you know, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to fulfill somebody's shoes. So I'm really grateful to A Chorus Line, because you know, what a great education, you know, to be able to do that. It says a lot. So I had a very different experience going into this, rather than, because now at that time, there weren't a lot of singer-dancer actors at that time. Now it's like they're everywhere. So it's very specific at that time. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Love that.
And I don't know about I was going to say that the standby for like Wicked isn't even billed on the billing page. We're only in the program, so it's definitely important to have zero ego and expectations on that level, because you're not getting, everyone is appreciative of it, but it's a thankless job in a sense where the audience doesn't realize what goes into it, you know. Only those in the industry do.
So actually I'm going to segue into, for swings / dance captains, what is your process? How did you start? Like, how did you learn all the roles? Did you have a special way of keeping notes, or did you have something or a system that worked from you? Like, what was your jumping off point? This is open for all: dance captains, swings, understudies, etc.
Well, I can start. I mean, like, at least for my swing position was actually like a series of principal tracks. So they had me learn one track at a time. which was, well, I mean, sort of, because like there's parts of the show that they kind of do together, which was helpful, so that I could kind of learn one number and then kind of know that, and then be able to just be like, okay, this person is in this point and this person is at this point, but they're basically doing the same choreography. It's basically almost like start to see the show like a football game, yeah, like a bird's eye view, exactly. But yeah, so I learned everything like one role at a time, more or less. But as I started learning each role, like the first role was obviously the hardest, and then it got progressively easier because it was like, oh yeah, I already know this show kind of thing by the time you get.
Did they give you that priority list, or did you just go, I think I'm going to start here? Sorry.
The first role, yes. I started with Monkastrap, and then it was kind of like, well, what do you want to do next? You want to do Skimbleshanks or Rumtum Tugger? I was like, let's do Rumtum Tugger. Yeah, mostly just because I was nervous as I wanted to get that one. Oh, sorry, I said, oh God, I'm sorry. I wanted to get it out of the way because that's what I was the most nervous about.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely not cool, like, at all. And Rumtum Tugger had to be like, cool.
And Daniel, you were an offstage swing, right? So did you feel like being an offstage swing gave you that advantage of like the bird's eye view because you weren't like in your spot in rehearsals or whatever doing it every day, so you got to like see the production come together?
Yes and no, because like we were a very special case because I mean this doesn't happen for every single show, but for us we were also pit singers when we were off stage. So we were in the pit. We got to watch the show, but on a little screen that was like about this big. We're like, I think that's Monkastrap. So yeah. But yeah, the other times I did, but we didn't do that every single show, but like most of the time we were backstage singing, and then every once in a while I could watch the show from the front or from the sides and take notes. Yeah.
I want to say, sorry, who was talking something? Just really quick, because I was a swing in a creation of a show, so I didn't get any charts or anything. We had to kind of create as we went. So it was a little bit of a different process because, you know, our dance captain gave us, there's 4 swings initially and 1 standby, and he kind of said, okay, why don't you focus on these 5 guys, you focus on these 4, but we'll have to learn everything. And what we would do is every day in rehearsals, everyone was their initials. So like Daniel Dawson would be DD, David Vaughn, DB, and you would kind of draw your football charts. And of course, you're creating a new musical. We had 6 weeks of rehearsal before Art of Town, another 6 weeks before Broadway, 4 weeks of previews. Like it was so long and it's nonstop changes. So it's just like constant. We would just spend all of our time ripping up pages, putting new things together. And eventually, once the show was locked, we created little books that we would, I had one for each person and it had their initials on it, and I would break, and my advice would be to, when you create your book, don't create like a big one, create a little one that you can bring with you backstage, put in your ditty bag, have with you on if you need, that kind of stuff. But when I created it, it was just a lot of moving parts. And we, like every one of you, I guarantee you, as the story, we're the last ones to get rehearsals. Like standbys get rehearsals before us, understudies get swings are just like, good luck. So you kind of, when somebody would be pulled from a costume fitting, you would pop in, which was so valuable, even if it was for 3 minutes, to run that 2/8 of music once while I had to walk out of the room and grab something was super valuable, because you got that sense memory of kind of what the group feels like on stage, and then you just kind of had to add to it later.
You have to have like that jumping off point. So that's fascinating, the difference between being a part of a swing or learning tracks, you know, for something that's not already a well-oiled machine. It must kind of feel a little chaotic having it all come together, and then you can kind of create the system from there. So
you would think that's
interesting. Great. Did you have something to add earlier?
No, I was just going to say that as Les Mis is a well-oiled machine. So it's been running for a while. When I joined,
never heard of it.
I joined after 6 months. That show, it'll never work. It'll never make any money. It had already been running for about 6 months by the time I joined in. So I joined as a replacement cast. And so I had to learn my ensemble track first, and then I learned my understudy track. And they do it in a way that you learn it in 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to learn your track, and then you do your put-in rehearsal at the end of that 2 weeks. But it's really cool because they do, I love the football chart reference, because it is like that. They just show you, you're in the room with just the, we travel with a resident director, and then we have one of our 2 female swings was the dance captain at the time. So you go in a room with one of the stage managers, the resident director, and then the person who's the dance captain, and those people teach you the show in 2 weeks. So you're doing that in rehearsals during the day, and then everybody, then you go and watch the show at night. Or they have videos of the show, so you just sit there with your video and try to see what's going on with your track, so that you can learn your track first. But yeah, the football charts are really cool because they're all just little colored circles that have people's initials in it. So like, to know people at first, I didn't know who people were. I knew their initials. So I'm like, okay, so this person, DD, right? Daniel Dotson. Okay, yeah, that's Daniel Dotson. Okay. And yet I'm standing next to Liam, who's our show director, going, okay, but he's the one who's teaching me the part. Okay, right. So you're not this person, you're this person.
You're not
and
DD.
when you get into
Right.
and when you get into those big numbers, like One Day More is gigantic and everybody's on stage and you're marching and you have to like stay in line with certain people, but you're only marching with 2 people ever. You're not marching with the whole cast. So there's moments like that are pretty interesting.
And there's times,
but yeah, understudy secondary.
There's times like where, you could kind of just sort of fit into a hole on stage. You're like, oh, there's a hole there. That's probably where I'm supposed to be.
That's me. Yeah, totally.
But
That's
other
definitely-
times,
Find the light.
doesn't really work.
Yes.
I have a question for understudies / standbys. Has anyone ever understudied a big star or name, and what was that like?
Oh, I think I know who she's talking
We got a Leslie first, maybe.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, this is so interesting to hear the people talking about jumping into these well-oiled machines, or these big productions that are so polished. And anyway, this play was Laurie Metcalf, who I think most of you probably know, and she had chosen to do, it was a very small, like 99-seat play in Los Angeles with Jimmy Simpson, who is also a well-known television actor. Anyway, she chose to do it because she just wanted to do the play, but it's a very different experience when it's not a well-oiled machine and there's not a lot of polish. They're just there to do the work of it. They did have a little bit of structure, so I knew I had 2 performances guaranteed. So I knew when those would be, and then I had my own like modified tech put in for that. And then there was another cast member, so the 2 of us went in together, so we knew when that was happening. So it wasn't like I was loitering around waiting for her to fall over or something. But it was interesting. I've had different experiences. In this case, she was not interested in speaking with me or knowing me in any way, which is perfectly fine. So I think at one point it was acknowledged that that's who I was, and I waved her, and she just so she wasn't interested, whatever her process is, she wasn't interested in having any of that, and so she did. I wasn't thrown by that, but in a way it kind of freed me up. It's like, okay, we're not gonna be friends, it's nothing to do with that, so I'll just watch your work and take what I need from that, so it became very, very clear in that way. So I didn't need a welcoming committee, but in a way that kind of, I'm not glad, but I was rolling with it because it just set up, this is what we're doing here. Like, this is the play we're doing, this is the point of it, this is what we're doing here. And what I was able to take from her work in it as well was that she didn't work too hard. It was a very funny play, but then very dark, but she didn't work too hard ever doing it. I was like, great point. She also didn't work too hard knowing me or getting, I was like, great, all of that I can take for some value,
There you go. There you go. Oh, we're just getting into the I see a Nancy Wood hand. Yes.
I could chime in about my experience on there playing our song, or do you want to move on to something else?
Oh no, please do. Yeah, and also I would love to hear about how swinging has maybe changed since maybe your first swing job.
Oh, since my first swing job.
Or understudy job as well.
Well, what I was gonna. Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure I can answer. I don't know how to answer that question, but
I'll help.
Contribute to what you were just gonna say.
Yeah, like talk about they're playing our song, but then like what she's trying to get at it too, I think is relating like someone like yourself who we want to see like has the job of understudy, swing, standby, etc. Has it evolved and changed from like when you were on Broadway or the West End to like when Chelsea just did it, you know, like a year ago, whatever that was. Like how is
Well,
it?
Feel the same
well,
thing.
I'll address that first then, because, you know, it's been a while since I've been working, you know, the way I used to. So I'm listening to everybody's stories, and we didn't have, until Starlight Express, did we have like, you know, 5 understudies. There really wasn't that. I think when I did Evita in New York, we had a second cover to the Mistress, but that was it. We only had like first covers, and that was usually me for the roles that I covered. So it's amazing to me now that they have so many standbys. Maybe they just weren't on the shows that I was involved in, but it just seems like they're being, you know, as a business being smarter, because I know in Starlight, my goodness gracious, I was always on. And I think I've always been always on for all the parts that I've ever played. So I don't know if that answers your question. It just seems like there's much more opportunity, and of course I loved it because you make a lot of money. So I'm like, sign me up. I want to make money. So any show I did, I was like, sure, I would have a part, and then I'd understudy. So I was always making like double salary. You know, can't complain about that. But I was going to just share a very quick story about They're Playing Our Song, and I understudied Gemma Craven. And I was the dance captain, and I was the swing. So it was very odd for me to go in and give notes to Gemma, and then I would go on for her. You know, so it was very awkward. But I also knew there was going to be 2 weeks she was going to be on vacation. She was sick a lot, and I was on a lot for Sonia. And I've done a lot of after the first scene going on, and I'm in the dressing room watching Dallas or whatever I was watching. All of a sudden, I'm like, "You're on!" I'm like, "Oh my God!" So, so anyway, I remember we were rehearsing for me to do the go in for her 2-week vacation, and I'm going through the scene. You know, I mean, the door, and I smashed my elbow, and I broke the funny bone.
You broke it?
So I broke the funny bone. I can't even tell you.
And you were never funny again.
It was the end of my comedy career. So I broke the curse. But I ended up, they were like, "Oh my God, we're going to have to cancel the show." And I said, "No, go on." So I ended up going on. But what did happen for me, and it's not good for Gemma, but I actually got reviewed as an understudy, which is very rare that ever happened. She wasn't too thrilled about that. But anyway, that was my going in story for Sonia. Anyway, that's.
Love that. We actually have time for one more question before we open it up to a Q&A, and I think this is the juicy stuff that we love to get into.
Yeah.
What was your most either positive or incredible or miracle of teamwork or successful or crazy swing / understudy story? I know we all have a few of those. I know I have a few of them.
You were there for this.
My first funny story is in Hair. I was in Japan. The lovely Erica Lustig was playing Buddha Dalai Lama / Mom track, if you know the show. And we're doing the number Hair, and no one ever leaves the stage, right? So we're flopping our heads, and everyone turns to the left, and they're singing about their hair, and then they turn to the right. And I see this track spinning toward me that never spins toward me during this part. Of course, we're all flopping around, and we're getting dizzy. And I see Erica Lustig spinning toward me, and she goes, "Psst, you're going on halfway through the show."
Oh God.
And she spins away. She spins off stage, and then I spin off stage the other direction. I get put in her costume. She gets taken to the doctor, and I'm on for the rest of the show.
Oh my God.
It's just moments like that where you're like,
Hilarious.
Oh, and I would have never done. I mean, that was my track debut. So you never know. Be prepared for anything. And does anyone else have any crazy stories?
I have a story about Grease, the musical. I understudied like 15,000 people. They
There's a lot of people in Greece.
This happens when you work in Germany. Sometimes the leading roles leave in the middle of the night and break their contracts.
Oh my God.
That is what literally happened several times actually. And our Sandy left like a week before Christmas. And so we were left without a Sandy. Like she left in the middle of the night, didn't tell anybody. And at the time I had like dug my heels in and I was like, I'm not going to understudy, you know, I'm not, but I knew the role. So they were like, can you please like bump up to Rizzo and then we'll make the Rizzo Sandy. And I was like, no, the only way I'm going to go on for this role is if you give me a chance to do the role. At the time I had understudied both Rizzo and Sandy, I'd gone on for both. So they're like, all right, let's have a Sandy off. So the girl that played Rizzo went on for Sandy during the matinee, and I went on for Rizzo. And then for the evening show, they switched us, and I played Sandy for the evening show, and she played Rizzo because the producer, Wolfgang Bach, wanted to see us both in the roles. So this was like two dueling understudies, like duking it to the death for the role of Sandy. And I ended up getting it because my German was just a little bit better.
Girl.
Yeah, we were doing it auf Deutsch, and I had been taking German lessons. So
that was right. I left at the best time because I was like, I left right before you guys had to start speaking in German, and I was like,
yes, I would have helped you though.
Does anyone else have any crazy?
I do.
Oh,
I've got some. I went on 85 times as Elphaba Foley, and then 3 times mid-show swap on. So those were honestly the first time that I did a mid-show swap was probably the most incredible Elphaba experience of or probably ever of my career, because you really just, you're so focused and you're so lasered into what you have to do, and the green has to get on super fast, so people are working to like their capacity, and the green got on in 8 minutes and I was on stage 10 minutes after getting the call.
Right, you guys with your crazy makeup shows like Cats and Wicked, that must be wild.
Nuts.
Put on, you know,
I don't have to do any of my Wicked makeup, which is great. But it was just so incredible to go on and have the entire cast just rally around you and just support you throughout the whole thing. That I also experienced that during my debut, just because everyone just wants you to succeed. And to me, I think that the first mid-show swap on was probably one of my best Elphaba shows. And I had no time to think about things. So
great. You touched on something real quick. I just wanted to, since we're like about to go into Q&A, like, about everyone rallying behind you and being supportive. I know that that's not always the case, because I have definitely had friends, and I won't say, I mean, even in this room, that I won't say unless they decide to say themselves, but and friends, especially in the Wicked group, a friend of mine was started as a standby and then ended up playing the role on Broadway at one point, and had horror I mean, the way that the girls would as a standby would react to you versus then when you were the part, and how different those relationships were. I'm sure that translates within any, I know another person who's shaking his head yes right now had some interesting experiences being a swing and having people deliberately watch him make an error and then not help him out because it wasn't their job.
Can you hang it up?
Yeah, right. So anyway, like, any of you want to elaborate on any of that stuff, on the not nice things that happen? Because sometimes it's a really crappy position to be in. We've talked about it being thankless, but I mean, sometimes you have to have a thick skin. You always have to have thick skin.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell the story really quick. This is it was my second time on, first time on for this specific track. It's not important why, but like after I make my initial cross, everyone has this huge costume change. But this one track has to help this other character move on a freaking tree. It means nothing. The tree weighs 3 pounds. It was not a big deal. I went on for my track. As used to everyone else in the company, except for these 2 people, I ran to my costume change. I did my costume change. Everything was fine. And then I found out later that, oh my God, I forgot to move the tree on. And the other person who I moved the tree on watched me walk by him to go to my costume change, watched me change, and stage management was mad at me, and I said to this person, he is an older individual from a different time of theater, and he was like, it's not my job to learn your track and to tell you what to do. And I was like, I was right next to you, grab me, the shove with love, which I'm sure you've heard before. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm new to this. Help me. Just be like, hey, remember we got to move the tree on.
Literally, help you.
Yeah. But
Right.
but wanted to make a point, and whatever. Everyone survived, but that is a different attitude. That is one of the attitudes you get. I have been told like the words, "You're not actually in the show. You're just help." You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So you're thinking all of that, which is why I say take away the ego. I say it because of you may get poisonous company members, but you may not get to perform on the Tonys. You may not be on the cast album. You may not be in the souvenir program. I was lucky to be on a lot of those things, but that often is not the case. So that's where the ego has to go away, is where like, you are not hired help. You are in the show. However, you will probably not be in the Today Show performance. You will probably not do blank and blank and blank. And that has to be okay. And that's hard. And
Which
it's
is
okay to be sad about that.
The
And
ego
then
thing
move.
that we've been talking about. Okay, with not having the credit or being in, you know, the commercial or like Chelsea was saying, not even in like the billing or like whatever.
Yeah.
So.
In Cats, we had what we called swing therapy sessions, where all 9 swing
That's
people
brilliant.
gather together and talk and just like, no, we are not the hired help. Because like, you know, there were people in the cast that, I mean, most of the people were not like this, but there was a few that were like the partiers, the one that wanted to go out and like, you know, have a good time at night and then like, you know, call out the next day. They're like, oh, it's fine because my swing will, you know, like my swing is like we're owned by them or something. I was like, no,
Yeah.
we are not your help.
I had the
We're not here
opposite.
just so that you can have a good time at night, that kind of thing. You like, you need to do your job.
Yeah, I actually had the opposite where I had like some divas basically say to me, oh, I never go on. And it's like, you know what, even if that's true, like don't say something like that to someone whose job it is to be prepared, you know, like be nice. And actually I had one actress, this was actually on Wicked, where she came into the show and I had been with the show for a while, and during her like first week of rehearsal, she's like, just so you know, I never go on. And she didn't say it with a mean, like, you know, but she was like, oh, don't, like saying it as if to reassure me or something. And I was like, oh, but I've gone on for the role now like 25 times. So I'm good. Like if called out, I'm good. And then she called out her last show of the week. She actually, I had to go on mid-show for her. That was my first Chelsea. And she wrote me a note afterwards and was like, I'm so sorry, like totally humbled and like, I didn't realize what a beast of a show this was. And I was like,
Case in point,
never say never.
Yes, never say never. And case in point, appreciate your swings, appreciate your understudies. You know, that's it's a hard job to fulfill and a hard role to cast, like TJ was saying.
I just wanted to add that there was a situation, not while I was with Wicked at all. This kind of traveled through the company as a don't be like this, where one day, like most of the swings were on, a couple of understudies, it was like a split track type day where a lot of people had called out and there was like people playing multiple tracks and such. And one of the principals came on to look at the call sheet and said, oh, I guess the B team is on today. And like that was like, don't be like that. Don't think of any of your standbys, swings, understudies as B team because they are there to save the show.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
The unsung heroes, 100%. And I actually believe now it's time for us to open to some Q&A.
And there's one in the chat real quick that says, what's the best way to highlight on your resume that you love being a swing understudy and you're good at it?
Oh, is that? No, I'm curious though. Is that if you've never done it before, or if you have done it?
Let's just say, because it doesn't specify. Let's say that it's someone. Let's say both. I know, like if you're auditioning for like it says I've done it but want to do it more. She just clarified.
I think my as a director also, what I would say is anything you want me to look at or you think is important, put it at the very top. I don't care if it's the most recent thing, put it at the very top. I rarely get beyond 2 or 3. Thanks. So I would say if you are a swing or an understudy and you're like, I want them to know I swing, especially if you're going in to replace a swing or an understudy in a Broadway or an existing show, you want to put that up there at the top, just move it up to the top.
Or dance captain, same diff.
It's a
Yeah.
good point.
I have something to contribute.
Move things around depending on what you're going in for.
100%. You should not print 1,000 resumes, and you should print 10 at a time, and you should have one that hides your swing if you don't want to be a swing, and highlights your swing if you seriously.
But yeah, that's actually a great the sort of like because I wanted to ask that question too, like you know, because a lot of people love being a swing, and some people are like, I want to get away from that and maybe move like into a different way. So I mean, like, is that a way that people transition, is by literally hiding those things on your resume?
100%. You lie, and I hate to say that, but you just delete it off your resume, or you put it at the very bottom. And then the other thing I'd say is, whenever you want to move, whenever you want to not be a swing and you want to be an understudy, or if you don't want to be an understudy anymore, you only want to be the star, or you don't want to do regional theater and you only want to do Broadway, you have to, what I say, raise your stock. You have to raise the price. You have to change how much it costs to hire you. And what that means is you may not be hired as much right away.
Right.
So what I would say is, if you don't want to swing anymore, you have to start turning down swing jobs.
You have to start saying
eventually, Telsey and all the big guys will hear that, you know.
We actually had somebody in our Jesus Christ Superstar company who's going to remain nameless, who was offered a swing position and turned it down, which is a risk. But you know, they didn't want to be, but they ended up being hired as their own ensemble track anyway. So they just decided that they didn't want to be seen for being a swing anymore, and they decided to, you know, that was their moment to finally say no, and that's tough.
Although it's better to pay your dues first, like,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
If you get offered, if it's like your very first Broadway show and you get offered swing, don't turn it down.
No. Yeah, because simultaneously it's the way that also gets your foot in the door, you know, and
yeah, right.
And keeping up a good reputation. We talk about a lot on this channel.
Real quick, so is there anybody that has, because we have time, maybe, because luckily our teacher of the next class is in this room right now, so David Bond is doing the business of acting next, which is going to be a fascinating class, everything about equity, signing contracts, just literally the business of acting, the business part of it. So people that are interested in this as a career, and the business part of it is the ugly part and the necessary part. He and Cookie Monster shall be teaching that next class. But before we go, because we do have to go here in a second, is there any like last minute burning questions from anyone in the room, and or anyone in the panel have anything they really offer?
I see a question from a Christy.
Oh yeah, Christy. Let me unmute you. Hi, Christy.
Hi. I'm just wondering how often, and this could vary based off of how many tracks you're learning. As you're learning the role, you're obviously not necessarily with the whole entire cast learning a part, but how often do you then get a full rehearsal from start to finish with the whole entire cast to run through everything before you actually go on? Or does that, like, you learn your track and you, good luck?
Hey, I think it's both. I think it's case by case basis for sure. I know I've been in all of the positions where sometimes literally the first time you're doing it is when you're performing it, and other times you have like quite a few put-ins. So I would say that it kind of runs across the board there. At least
and and the definition of a put-in is also different per show, because sometimes a put-in is just like with the cast without an audience, you know, or just the understudies and you know, and the cast, or you
no costumes if you're
right.
I've never heard of a swing getting a put-in. I've only heard of understudies getting a put-in. Swings generally will get rehearsals, but never a put-in.
We were super
our swings got put-ins.
We actually got put-ins as a swing.
Yeah.
You.
I think,
our swings
I think
got
it does.
put-ins for sure.
Yeah, I think it depends on the show. We have
Everybody.
So
yeah.
Sophia had a question that relates to this, which was basically how often does someone want to touch on real quick, because then we will have to sadly leave it. We've done the tip of the iceberg. I think this is a panel that could do a part 2, because I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of ground to cover, and definitely a lot of people here I know who might want to pursue this as a career avenue. And there's so many stories, fun stories I know that you all have that we didn't get to cover. But real quick, it says, you know, how often do you guys, as understudies, as swings, as all of these positions, how often do you rehearse? And then do you request to put in? How does that go as far as like, you know, if you're not getting thrust into the situation, like for the need of the show, but if you haven't done a role yet, like how does that work?
Well, I know for us on Jesus Christ Superstar, we have 2 sets of principal covers and 4 or 5 total swings. So every 2 weeks, I think is the law that we have to have an understudy rehearsal with each cast. So what we do is we combine them all on one day, and we do that once a month. So from like 12 to 5 before a 1-show night, it'll be basically a 3-show day. We'll do an entire run of the show with the first covers, then another entire run of the show with the second covers, swings, choosing whichever tracks they feel like they want to work on, and then that night doing whatever they need to do in the show.
Yeah, it was sort of similar at the Wicket. It was sort of similar because our swings got their own rehearsal, they got their own put-in rehearsal, and then when they hadn't done a role in a while, they would just go to stage management and say, hey, I haven't done this particular track, could I swing on for this role? And then they'll just pull the person in the ensemble that normally does that, and then they would get to go on and rehearse, like get a go at it. But for understudies, if they're like a swing that understudies, they don't get to rehearse it. They get to rehearse it in rehearsals, but they don't get to like ask to be swung on. So that's the little difference, I would say.
Amazing.
Ours usually on our tour, we usually have when we have a put-in rehearsal for anybody new coming into the company, they try to do it as one big chunk because they usually have a couple people come in at one time, particularly with the children because we have children on our show. So when they put in a new batch of kids, they also swing out the main principal characters for some of those, and they swing in some of the understudies. So if you haven't gone on, say, or we have a new understudy, that person will go on instead of the principal going on for that particular rehearsal.
Nice. And then I know that these also another thing to talk about in part 2 is how fast. I know for me, I had 5 rehearsals when I got put into my tour when I went on into Greece. Leslie, I know, was I was in a principal part, so it's definitely not like doing an ensemble part. I know, Leslie, you weren't a swing, but you were a first replacement for Victor Victoria on Broadway, which is an insanely complicated dance show, and you had 7 rehearsals before getting put into that show. So I know that that's another thing to talk about, is just the pace at which you have to learn, which I'm sure in the casting process they look at, how fast can you absorb material, and because I think
how willing you are.
all of you, most of you actually have either have done it once or a couple of times. So each of you guys, and then there's the few of you that have done it, like Maria and Leslie and Nancy, who've like done it a bunch, but you have to get your first opportunity, right? Everyone even though like as a director, David might be looking for, who's done it before. I think a lot of people do get hired, for their first time because they see that their brains can handle it. So I think it's another thing to cover, but we're already 2 minutes over into our next class and we got to get to David's business.
So much
doesn't mind.
Thank you guys so much.
You're amazing. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you, Daniel and Biddy, for moderating. Thanks to all of our panelists.
Oh, it was nothing.
You
did most of the work anyway.
Looking forward to part 2.